Hey guys, just wanted to get your opening thoughts on the roster decisions, specifically Jovan Jones, and what led into that decision to decline his option, and if there is any interest in potentially bringing him back on a different deal.
With Jovan, had excellent conversations with him, like with every player, and I spoke to his agent, and Brian spoke to the player. And ultimately, I think all of these guys now that we've declined options on and stuff, it's up to them now. So I want to stress that to everybody. Everybody understands that it's their choice now as to what is the next step. Do they want to be in the reentry draft on Thursday? Do they not want to be there? So look, we have to let it play out from a Sounders perspective. But my understanding with Jovan is that he will be in that reentry process. Now, again, he could change his mind, but that's what happens when we decline the options. We lose control of the players. We continue to have dialogue with them, conversations, but now it's their career and it's in their control what they want to do with it. So that's the next step with Jovan.
I think Jackson, for me, look, Jovan's been a good player for our club, but these are tough decisions. A lot of these decisions that Garth and I have to go through, we organize them back and forth, and with tough salary cap restrictions on Garth and the organization, sometimes you just have to make, tough choices, and we will always spend max dollars. I mean, we've always been a club that wants to do that, and we'll just try and rebuild if the player wants to entertain a conversation. Then Garth is always willing to listen.
Thanks for that opener, Jackson. Next hand I see raised is from Jeremiah O'Shan at Sounder at Heart. Jeremiah, please go ahead and unmute your line. You're good to go.
I guess kind of along those same lines, in the release that came out, João Paulo's situation seemed to be a little bit in flux. If you could just let us know what's going on with him and whether or not that has anything to do with potential designated player status.
Yeah, our intention is to try and bring JP back. I believe that he wants to come back. Those discussions are ongoing. Obviously, it involves Botafogo in Brazil, so it's not as straightforward as simply we and JP agreeing. But I think he had a very good first year. And as the DP stuff, Jeremiah, that'll be determined based on the negotiation and where we land on some of that stuff. So nothing firm to report there, but would say that in my experience, when the player wants to stay and the team wants to get it done, I'm at least cautiously optimistic that we'll get a positive outcome there in the end.
And I'm sorry, just to follow up, is it fair to say that there is a chance that he's not a DP next year, or is that?
I think it's more likely. Yeah, look, without prejudicing the discussions, I think it's more likely he will be a DP, Jeremiah.
Okay, thank you.
Next hand I see raised in our queue looks like Larry Stone over at the Seattle Times. Larry, go ahead and unmute your line and ask your question.
Yeah, my question is more of a retrospective question than a personnel question for both of you. Just kind of reflect on the season. This was such a disjointed season with COVID and everything. How challenging did that make it, and what will you remember about this year?
Thanks, Larry. Good to see you. It's been a challenging year for a lot of different reasons, and I always try and keep the bigger picture, global picture, national picture, in some of my reflection, because there's a lot of worse people. People have it a lot worse than we do out there. For us, it almost felt like 3 different seasons. You started off well, or in preseason. We actually didn't start off well because CCL was a bit of a disappointment. You go into the season, it gets cut short, COVID, all the restrictions, the individual trainings. Orlando was its own set of challenges for the players. And, you get through all of that, you overcome a bit of adversity, and then you go on to have, a good buildup to, hopefully a great outcome for this club, and it falls painfully flat. and that stings. That loss stings. That was not, it's really frustrating for me. It's something that I'm going to try and get past, Larry, because I still believe that this club had a successful year, but it makes it more challenging just by the way, our final game played out. So overall, I'm very proud of, number one, the players, they persevered. Number two, I have to put a special shout out to Chris Cornish and all of our team, our medical staff, for doing a fantastic job for keeping us all safe in a pandemic world. And then, the entire organization for, again, doing a great job, being one of the leaders in MLS as far as goals and attitudes and success, and, really trying to keep our bar very high.
Garth, you want to jump in there too?
Yeah, just organizationally, just want to echo what Brian said. I mean, I think some people did an extraordinary job. I mean, the medical staff, I think Sheila Tatsunami, and what the job that she did with the development staff in that same role of keeping everybody safe. She was amazing. And, look, our track record at the end of the year was very good, or, certainly better than most in terms of keeping our athletes healthy. So that's huge. I think, Larry, for me, one of the things that maybe was underreported during the season, but was very disruptive, were the international transfer windows. You have a player like Gustav Svensson is in September, has to quarantine. It's gone in October, has to quarantine. It's gone in November, has to quarantine. And Raul and Arriaga, and there may have been another one that I'm overthinking, or overlooking. But that was very disruptive. I mean, to have those guys come back at different times in the stretch, and I think it upset some of the squad rotation in the run into the playoffs, and led to I think a lower performance level in the playoffs. But those are things that hopefully are not repeated in 2021. Hopefully, we get to a world where we get a handle on COVID, and hopefully that we can relegate those to be unique challenges that we had to overcome this year.
We'll stay in this Seattle Times family here and go next to Jada Evans, who I see has her hand raised. And a reminder, if anybody else has a question, just go ahead and hit the raise hand function. We'll get to you. Jada, go ahead and unmute your line and you're good to go.
Thanks for doing this. Going with the contracts, I wanted to see if either one of you can kind of provide an update on, Brian, on your contract.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've always said I hope to be back. We don't have a deal yet, but I know that Garth and my representatives have been talking about it. So I'm hopeful that we can get something done. I think it is, something that both sides are willing to try and make a push to get it done. It is getting a little late in the year, but I think everybody's, got the same goals in mind to try and push it over the finish line.
Yeah, Brian and I are aligned. We want to bring Brian and the staff back. We've said that for months. And I spoke with my representative multiple times yesterday, and certainly in the run-up during the playoffs as well. So we're working on it. Hopefully we'll get there.
Can you give any kind of timeline or?
Better to get it right than do it fast, Jada.
Next up, we've got Tim Booth over at the AP. Tim, go ahead and unmute your line.
Hey guys, there's a report about a new deal for Nico. Garth, can you give any sort of clarity on that?
Yeah, Nico's been re-signed through 2023. We had him under contract and his existing deal through 2021. Wanted to avoid a situation where we were entering the last year of that contract, and we're able to get something figured out. So very excited to have him back, and obviously he's been the cornerstone of our franchise since 2016. Everything is built around him. I thought he had another fantastic season. And so we are super excited and grateful to have Nico back for 3 more years.
And is that a DP slot that he'll take up?
Yes. Yeah, Tim, he did not agree to take a 60% pay cut to sign as a TAM player after being an MVP candidate, number 2 in the MVP race in the league. I'm good, but I'm not that good.
Some people are generous, so just checking.
It's no. I'm obviously teasing, but I think it's important for us to say that Nico's clearly a DP. that there is no, we would never, talk to him at this stage of his career about being anything other than a DP. Again, he's the cornerstone of our franchise. He's the best player on our team. He has been the best player on our team. I think he's arguably already the best sounder ever. If you look at the team's performance since his signing in 2016, 4 finals in 5 years, 2 titles, at the very least, I'm not aware of anybody who's had a better track record than that. Maybe Coach Schmetzer can correct me with his knowledge of the last 40 years, 50 years. But, for me, that's, as far as I know, he's the best one.
Well, I'm not going to correct you, Garth, because I feel the same way, but I am going to say that, look, as always, it is a team sport. I think the team has been successful over the years. Nico's contributions are obvious, but we have Steph Fry, we've had Chad Marshall, we've had Dempsey, we've had so many great players come through our franchise over the years. And so, that can certainly be a conversation in many people's eyes, but I am certainly very, very happy that Nico has decided to end his best playing years here with our club. And that is something that, the team is going to build on for next season. It's something that I am appreciative of. And, we're going to come back stronger and see if we can a few more games with Nico and crew and team and continue the success of the Sounders.
Thank you for waiting patiently, Maz. You are up next, my friend. Go ahead and unmute your line.
Thanks. Hey, guys, obviously this, the business here is about winning on the field, but I was just wondering if you guys could just talk about off the field in terms of your players and how, like Stefan Fry, Lodeiro, how they adopted the soccer culture, the community culture, the voter registration, the Black Lives Matters, and how important that was for them to move the social justice issue in terms of during the pandemic.
Brian, you want to take that one first?
I can give you the smaller details, Maz, and then I know Maya Mendoza from the front office has done a good job of, kind of forwarding this. I think the organization as a whole has done a good job of being good people. I mean, reasonably well-behaved, good people, and we are concerned about our community, about the overall picture of our nation. I would say specifics, Steph and Christian, Black Lives Matter movement. Yes, Nico certainly embedding himself into our community. There are so many different good stories about our players kind of following the mantra that I always say of our club, that the club is the relationship between the players and the fans, players in the city. Christian started off with the Conscious Eatery. So Black woman-owned business. We get all of our food and our lunch there. Sean Muldoon was very active in some Black Lives Matters movement. You guys saw the Maniela stuff. The club in itself, Adrian has always been good about philanthropic things that the club feels is important. I'm blanking on our team motto, but Garth, you can help me out here, but we're always investing in our community with different things. I'm a big, earth guy, tree hugger. Some of the stuff we do in the environmental field, I think is tremendous that we do for the club. We really have a strong platform. Steph, Christian, Nico, all of the players have a strong, big platform to help in some of these issues.
Yeah, I think the other organization to maybe mention is the Black Players for Change. The new group that came in as a player-formed, player-led, player-driven group. And had players on our team like Calvin Leardom and Jordy DeLem, among many others. Jovan Jones, who participate in that group in different forms. He did as well. So that's really exciting. Really proud of those guys for standing up for what they believe in and taking positions to make the world a better place. And as Brian, I think, said very eloquently there, I'm proud of our club. I think we are a leader in the space. I think we're very active in this space. And it's something that we're going to continue to do going forward.
Thanks.
Again, if you have a question, go ahead and hit the raise hand function there at the bottom right of your screen, or at least that's where it is on my screen. But we have Michelle Ludka up next from Q13 Fox. Michelle, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, guys. I just first wanted to say thank you for making yourselves available today, but also all season. You've been so kind and gracious during this kind of weird year to us media members, and it's appreciated. Moving forward, some of the current members of the coaching staff and former members of the coaching staff are in discussions regarding interviews to open positions for head coaching positions in the league. I'm curious, Coach, what that means to you, knowing that your colleagues and friends are being considered like that, but also what does it say about this club?
Yeah, it's always good when the club has success, and that filters down and filters into opportunities for, people that have done a good job for this club. What I would say, Michelle, is I certainly would love for them to be around for a couple more years. I mean, that would be helpful. But when they get the opportunity to interview for jobs, we are very supportive of that. And Gonzo, Jimmy, Preki, Tommy, they do such a great job. There are other people within our organizations that have opportunities to step up in the soccer world. And part of the culture of our club is to make sure that they feel comfortable, that they feel that it's okay if opportunities come up, that we want them to pursue those. And, again, whatever happens with Gonzalo and DC United, with other players, other staff members, I mean, we always wish our former Sounders success in their future endeavors. I would add one more, Michelle, actually, just to give a shout out to my friend Ezra Hendrickson. He was also in the running for, some vacant head coaching jobs. Ezra is a tremendous coach, and congrats to him being part of the Columbus staff.
Okay, I'm seeing a few follow-up questions, which is great. I'm going to go to Alonso Contreras next. I believe he's the sole remaining first-time asker here. Alonso, go ahead and bring your line off mute and ask your question, please.
Thank you, Alex. This question is for Ms. Ford. Sir, Raul has one more year of his contract. Have you guys have any conversation with him about his future?
Raul's under contract through 2022, so we have some time to resolve that, but he's had a wonderful career. I mean, I think, again, he's been I think he's already the best playoff striker in the history of the league. He's scored huge goals for us consistently. The team's been massively successful since he came, and certainly he's a player that we would love to keep here for a long, long time. He's been absolutely amazing, and not just on the field, but off the field. He's been a really good pro, we couldn't possibly be more happy with a player than we are with Raul.
And Felipe, apologies. Looks like you have your hand raised too. I'm seeing you there. So why don't you go ahead and ask your question next?
This question is for Brian. Brian, thank you for doing this. The 21st years of the league histories went by, and they announced the 25 players of this first quarter of the century. So in the list was a couple of players that retired with Seattle Sounders, which was Clint Dempsey and Chad Marshall. But also you have somebody that is actively working next to you, which is Preki. What is your opinion on that?
Well, it's obviously another great honor for the club. Again, back to a couple of questions ago about Nico. I mean, we have had tremendous players. I don't know if I mentioned Chad Marshall in my commentary there. I mean, Chad, arguably the best center back that this club has had, that the league has had. Clint, I've gone on record saying he is the greatest goal scorer that this country has ever produced. And certainly my good friend Preki, who I played with many, many years ago indoors, translated that career into a, outdoor career, national team career, early MLS. I think he was a two-time MLS MVP and a coach of the year. So, kudos to him in starting out with the league in its early days and having success. And again, I would go back to us as an organization. I think part of the strength of our organization, part of, what we are all about is getting good people to this club, whether it's in the form of players, whether it's a form of coaches, whether it's the training staff, the medical staff, the performance staff, the business side. We always want to retain good people and hire good people that help us drive the success of the club. And it's certainly evident with those three choices.
Fun fact too, Brian and I, Preki might be the only guy this is true of, but Brian and I both teammates of Preki's.
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we're beating ourselves a little bit.
Michelle might not have been born when we were teammates with Preki.
I'm totally interrupting here. I'm sorry, Alex. I just want to hear the story of when did you play with Preki? Because we all know when Coach Schmetzer played with him, but I want details.
All right. Well, I mean, it was 75 pounds ago, so I mean, you gotta kind of suspend your disbelief for a second that I was a professional athlete at one point. But 1996, Kansas City, and actually again then I think it was in 1999 in Miami, we were together. For some period of the year. I want to say Preki got traded there maybe mid-season, early in the season or something like that. So, in my brief 5 years in the league, I did cross paths with Preki and got to know him pretty well.
Seen a few follow-ups here, guys, which is great. Let's start with Jeremiah Oshan. Jeremiah, go ahead.
Yeah, if I guess in some ways it feels funny to be waiting to not ask about this, but going into the offseason, if you could kind of let us know what your offseason priorities are in terms of roster building and maybe how the expanded free agent class maybe impacts the way you approach internal MLS markets.
Well, the biggest thing that's going to drive this offseason, Jeremiah, is, well, there's two things. One is, we've been talking about for the better part of 12 or 18 months that, we are at the mature part of our cycle, and we hit the salary cap wall at the end of this season, we knew that was coming. And that's part of what contributes to decisions around Joven and Calvin and Gustav specifically. And those guys are great players, man. And they're going to be, part of the solution is going to be, that's factor one. Factor two is the cap is flat. So that means effectively we have less money to spend than we did before. So, there will be a smaller number of good players on the Sounders next year. Sorry, I shouldn't say good players. We can have a ton of good players, but there will be fewer experienced players on the Sounders next year as compared to this year. So that is part of the cycle. That is part of now coming back. And by no means is that a rebuild. When you look at the guys that if we had to start a team in a game tomorrow, I think we'd still have a pretty impressive starting lineup for the most part. But we're now entering a little bit of this next phase now where, we have prospects like Ethan Doubleair and Shannon Hopia and Alfonso Campo Chavez that are candidates at right wing. We have prospects in Danny Leyva and Josh Atencio that are prospects in the central midfield. And, it's not that you need one of those guys to break through, but the combination of those five players, and we have another kid, Reed, in the pipeline that maybe he makes it up by next year. Can they make meaningful contributions now where instead of going out and signing an experienced pro from Europe, South America, you are getting these contributions from those kids as part of the solution that helps us through this patch where we have a ton of money tied up in fewer and fewer players as a result of 5 years of, pretty much unmitigated success where correctly those good players have performed well and they've hit bonuses and they've been paid more money in accordance with their performance.
Next follow-up, we'll head over to Jada Evans again. Jada,
can I just follow up real quickly on that?
Go ahead, Jeremiah, quickly if you can.
Yeah, so would you say that means that there are no, you're not right now planning on external additions, or it's just that the pool of resources to use is smaller than it would normally be?
The pool of resources is honestly close to non-existent, Jeremiah. We had to cut to a level to get back to even. So we're about even. We got a little bit of room. I don't want to act like there's nothing we can do, but there is no plan right now to have an impact addition in the January window from outside the league. Now, part of that, again, is a strategy. We still can't scout. We still can't travel. We don't want to go and spend big money on a player that we don't know very well. But I do think that, and again, part of the salary cap strategy too, as you guys know, if you bring players into I think two things are going to happen next summer. Hopefully by next summer, COVID has receded to the point again where you can begin scouting and meeting people. I think the market is going to recover by then. And I mean that both in a business sense in the United States. I think fans return to stadiums, so revenue comes back. And I think that the market recovers from a global soccer perspective as well. All of which makes it a better environment to try to go find players in. But if we follow that strategy, because again, what we've done in the last year, Jeremiah, I know you know this well, for the first 3 or 4 years I was here, we always followed a 2 DP model. And then we would toggle somebody in and out of that third DP spot as we went to manage the cap and to try to stretch our resources. We've now moved, and again, if we're able to get JP done, we will be committed for the second year in a row to 3 DPs for the whole season. So that then has a knock-on effect on what else we can do. And it puts you closer to a strategy where if you want to get that flexibility, if you sign a player in the summer, that's obviously going to be a player on a lower cap hit because they're only going to be on your cap for 6 months as opposed to 12 months. So all of those things kind of work in concert to push us that direction.
Jada, we'll head back to you for your follow-up. If you can go ahead and unmute your line, that'd be great.
I have one simple one and then a more bigger one. But Garth, you were talking about the travel, and you had mentioned this before. Just wanted to be clear, haven't been in person with the team at all since the shutdown in March? You and like Chris, like you guys normally go to practice such.
Yeah. Look, we've been to, Chris more than me, but I was at sporadic practices, where we're masked and distanced, like literally outside the fence, on one end. So, there for the purpose, honestly, of saying hello to the staff, but that was very infrequent. It definitely hasn't happened in the last couple of months as the danger of that escalated. And so, yeah, it's been a bizarre year. Look, I'm talking to you from my garage right now because although I was, lucky enough to hitch a ride with Adrian Hanauer on his plane to Columbus, I'm in isolation now per the Washington State protocols about having traveled out of state. So, I'm apart from my family now for 10 days until we can become compliant with the public policy. So it's just a crazy year, and it's not an easy thing. And again, as Coach said earlier, a lot of people have a lot worse problems. So definitely not complaining about it, but that Jada, that impacted, take me out of it. I'm not that important. Coach and I talk all the time anyway. But where it really impacted us was player movement. From a development perspective, this was a super challenging year. We had such limited ability to take young players and play them for Defiance. We did a little bit of that with Ethan, with Fonz in particular. But, these are kids that are moving on a week-to-week basis in a normal year. And, we were able to literally move them 2 kids one time. And that's not good. That's not the right answer. And I tip my hat to John Hutchinson for the job he did this year as our development coach. And unfortunately, John's going to be moving on. There'll be an announcement on that in the future. But those are some big shoes to fill as we look to staff that position again and continue that role in the club going forward.
My other one, thanks for all of that. That's exactly what I was curious about. But I didn't think it was going to be that long. But if I can go ahead with my other question, is for the finals. Y'all were talking about the Black Lives Matter movement, and I don't know I was stuck with what Fox showed. So it didn't appear that y'all kneeled like you did during the season, Coach Brian. Is that true, or what were the pre-game ceremonies that y'all did? I saw you.
Garth may have a better answer than me. I know that was, again, all of a Fox production aspect. Our players firmly believe in the movement. They want to participate in all of the, different things that they're starting to organize and are part of already. But I don't have a good answer for you there.
Oh, it just mean, did you kneel or not? That's all. Did you guys usually kneel before the first whistle to play? And that was the part that just wasn't seen. So did y'all do that?
We did not kneel as a group, no.
Jada, I'll chime in there, and if you want to get with me after, just give me a call. I can refer you to the league, but MLS Cup is a league-produced event in terms of the operational aspects. So I can refer you to somebody over there if you'd like to ask about what went into the programming side of that event on Saturday.
Yeah, that would be great, because I thought that was more of a protest statement. So that's not, like an organized protest statement since you guys came back. So that's not the way to read that anyway.
Yeah, I think, happy to connect with you after the call, and then we can dive into the specifics of this and then connect with the league if you like. No problem. I am going to go next to Jason Mitchell because I don't think he's asked a question yet. So Jason, go ahead and unmute your line if you're still on the call.
Yeah. Hey, Garth. Jordan Morris has maybe expressed a little more interest in the playoffs and moving to Europe at some point. Do you see that as a near-term possibility for him?
Look, we'll work with him on it. Coach and I talked to Jordan, I think it was yesterday, the day before. And as just the way we handle this is we're just pretty open and transparent. And, we said, Jordan, what do you want to do? And we're happy to work, and we want happy players, and we want players that are fulfilled and ambitious and all that. All that said, Jordan is a unique asset to our club. His value to us in our community, because of what a good person he is and how active he is special and probably not replicable. Jordan is probably worth more to us here than a comparable player, if there even is such a thing. I mean, it's the guy that finished in the top 5 in the MVP voting. He's got a lot of value to us. But that said, we will certainly support him and whatever he wants to do, whatever direction he wants to take. And we will, as we always have. I mean, this is a kid that we've known for a long, long time, well before he signed with the Sounders, and have a good relationship with him, with his family, and we'll just sit down and talk it through.
Has COVID changed the marketplace in a way that maybe it makes more sense both for him and for the club to wait and see if finances are different down the line?
Yeah, I mean, look, I obviously can't speak for Jordan and his perception of the marketplace, but from the Sounders' perspective, I think in the simplest way I can put it is more clubs will be spending more money in the summer if things go as we expect them to go. I mean, there are definitely fewer clubs active at the moment, and there's definitely less money being spent on transfers right now. That is objectively true.
All right, thanks, guys.
We'll go back to Felipe next. Felipe, go ahead and unmute your line, please.
Oh, Garth, this year has been a struggle for the organization, and I'm pretty sure it affected it many areas. Is there any plan to start planning the recovery and of whatever areas were affected, and how long would that take? And what was the area where the organization suffered with this COVID year? So hopefully by next summer we get all better.
Look, again, I think I want to stress that, the world, other people have bigger problems than the Sounders do. We are a pro sports organization, and we took some massive financial losses. Unfortunately, I think those losses are going to continue into 2021 and continue to have impacts on us, and that will have potential impacts on what we're able to do on and off the field. But Brian may be better positioned to answer the second half. But I mean, I think the thing that we miss the most is the fans. It's I would drive into the stadium and watch the game, and the only reason I share that with you is it felt like, and some of you guys in the media are had a similar experience I mentioned, but it felt like I Am Legend, like it was just barren and empty in downtown Seattle, and you're pulling your car into the Lumen Field garage, and there's 4 cars there in a space that's usually jammed, and you're walking down long, massive corridors all by yourself, and sitting in a section of the stadium and hearing the sound echo around. And I mean, it's just a bizarre experience from a pro sports perspective. And, again, I credit to ECS and our fans. They did a great job on the south end and the Brom end, to put up supportive banners. And I see the tifo over Coach's shoulder right there. But I mean, look, man, we played a year ago what I still think was the coolest sporting event in my life, when we hosted MLS Cup. And I get chills still just thinking about that. And when you contrast that to being in Columbus in front of 1,500 people, and a credit to those folks that came out to that game, I think they did a great job to provide atmosphere there. But it's just, you couldn't have a better illustration of the year and juxtaposing those images. 70,000 in Lumen Field, 1,500 in Columbus. And man, I hope next year we get back to the point where we can have 70,000 in Lumen Field again. Thank you.
See a few more follow-ups, and then we'll likely close out, guys. So try to get to everyone on the list. We will go back to Alonzo. I think you were next in the queue.
Thank you, Alex. This question is for the coach. Coach, in the preseason, you're going to bring more Tacoma Stars players. Is the club planning to sign 2-3 more players from the Tacoma?
Well, it always, since we've taken over, I always enjoy having the young players come up to us in preseason. I think the Defiance people, the academy people do a good job of getting the players ready, but there's always that one last step that they have to take. And for us as the first team coaches, we always want to see the younger players in with the experienced players. That's the best way to measure they're ready to go to be signed for the first team or not. So preseason is a very easy part of the year where we can bring everybody together. We need the extra numbers when we want to play practice games and all of that. But that process, Alonzo, always goes a little further. We have some of the young kids come up to us during the season, during the summer months. Sometimes there's some of our former academy products that come back from their college experiences. Garth already mentioned, we have a young man, Reed Baker Whiting, who is been training with us and done very well. So it's always an objective of the club to try and get our younger players incorporated with the experienced guys as much as possible and as soon as possible.
The only thing I'll add there too, just in the end, is we would expect, as always, to bring a couple of the kids to preseason. Whenever we can safely conduct preseason. Brian and his staff have always been open-minded and welcoming, and I think that's a great way too of giving these kids some experiences. And this didn't get any coverage because media wasn't allowed at our training sessions. But in fact, Brian and his staff came to us in the front office and said, hey, I think it was from Brian, from November 1st on, or from mid-October maybe, can we have some of these young kids come train with the first team? I tip my hat to the staff for doing that, because in a time when it was very stressful and we're in a stretch run, and they're focused on getting ready for playoffs and playoff games, they still took the time to work with these young kids and to incorporate them as part of the group. So that's a real good measure of progress for us, and we should be able to continue that in preseason next year.
Okay, we'll go back to Michelle. I see your hand raised. Go ahead and ask your follow-up.
I'm interested to see what you guys could share with us about what the process will be like over the next couple of months in regards to a start of a season, because I believe right now there's no start date. Is there anything you can share to us about what will be going into those decisions, or a timeline at all of when those will be decided, of kind of what's going to happen in 2021?
Yeah, I think we don't know officially yet, Michelle. No, we've been told March 1st, first weekend of March, standard start date, standard report date, which would be late January, based on 6 weeks before the start date. But look, with the status of COVID in the world right now, obviously things are not getting better. And we're going to put the health and safety of our players first and foremost. And if we can safely gather and train, then obviously that's something that we'll look at and we'll do. But we're going to do our best to not, we've done such a great job of getting through this year with really, really limited numbers of infections. And the folks that did get infected, most of those were guys that were abroad. Gustav got it with Sweden and Raul with Peru. We were very, very good here in Seattle, and that's the thing we're going to prioritize. We're going to prioritize having our team ready as always to go on a deep playoff run, as opposed to can we get 3 more training days in January because, we're taking some risks.
Great. We will go back to Jeremiah O'Shan, and then probably time for 1 or 2 more, and then we'll call it. Jeremiah, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things that there was a report out there that has suggested that off-season loans may be a thing that come back in part because the season may be delayed in start. And I'm just wondering if that's something that you guys are exploring, or if that's something that we should, that you think could be in the offing, especially if, the season doesn't start until, late March or April or even later than that.
Jeremiah, it is something we've discussed, but in order for that to happen, you need COVID to have receded significantly somewhere else. Right now it's not better in Europe than it is here. That's still the most likely. You could get some loans in South America. It's arguably not better in South America either. So again, health and safety would be the first consideration there. Look, chances are if COVID's so bad that it's not safe to bring our guys back to train them or to start the season, look, we can all hope that it's better in other parts of the world, but as of this moment, I don't know that to be true.
All right. We'll go back to Jackson Feltz and then Jada Evans to wrap it up. Jackson, go ahead.
Hey guys, you picked up the contract option on Alex Roldan, and for both of you, I wanted the insight on his development at right back this year. And for Brian, what's your confidence level in being able to roll him out there as a starting right back for a full season if it comes to that?
Sure. Well, Alex has made great strides. He's developed well. I would give a lot of credit to Jimmy Traore. He's done a great job of mentoring. He's done a great job with Alex. Alex was one of those guys that last year had some disappointment when we didn't re-sign him. And that was kind of like a little bit of a wake-up call. Sometimes players need that. Sometimes players have to drop down even to a USL level before they come back up. From way back when, Brian Ching was in the MLS, came to us for a season at USL, and then went on to many, many, many years in the MLS as a big star. So there's different pathways for different players. But I think his ability to kind of overcome a little bit of personal adversity has helped him in his development. Now, what Garth and I talked with Alex about is, look, this is still pro sports. And this is, you got to understand that we might go out and see if there's an experienced right back in any one of the, reentry drafts or something, or whether it's a younger player from Defiance coming up. And, there's all sorts of different options yet because we don't have a full roster as of this moment. And so the trick there is to have him retain some of the confidence that he's built up, but also be realistic with him, and I will certainly have conversations with the players in much greater detail about the last game and how to get better and all of those things. That's just part of what we're going to do and follow up with all the players and, keep our fingers crossed that he will be a valuable sounder for a while.
Jada, why don't you go ahead and close us out?
Thanks. Garth, there were reports, though, out of Brazil that JP had already, or that you already picked up the option to purchase him. Is that for a 2-year contract? Is that the correct way? Is that not accurate, or am I reading that wrong?
I would say that in my life experience, I would not go to the mat with South American media reports. Obviously, sometimes they know stuff we don't. And again, to be clear, Jada, without being silly, I do hope that something's going to get done. I do think, again, it's a situation where JP wants to stay. We want to keep him. And so again, I am cautiously optimistic something will get worked out. And to be clear, probably sooner than later. But we don't have anything official that we can announce at this point.
And then do you guys have to report COVID cases during the off season?
That's a good question. I don't have an answer for you, Jada. I would imagine it would depend as to whether or not that player is with us or not. I mean, in other words, if a player were to get a positive result back in his home country, for example, I don't think that would have a tremendous impact on our team. Obviously, we'd be concerned about the player. We'd do anything we could to help. But we'll give some thought to it, and you know, I don't know that there is a league policy with respect to that. But that's certainly a question that we can ask in the off season as well.